That's what he's leaving. Is that he was the first one to put this into play, and he's just going to see how he runs with it.
And I'm sure we're going to get some more on that later on down the line because that's going to be a hot issue, and we have things yet to come. So with that in mind, just touching lightly on the here at home in Fort Wayne, we're going to touch lightly on the Elmhurst and the Pleasant Center school closing, for example. There's a lot of people. You hear a lot of people talking about, well, let's cut the top official salaries and that'll help keep the schools open, blase, et cetera, so on. That's, if you get into it and do your background, their salary and the way a school building is ran, what monies are allotted for these school buildings are two different budgets. They come out two different financial budgets, so you can't rule it like that. That's not what it's all about. The people in these positions that are they're quote unquote getting paid for what they do, once again, unless you stepped into their shoes and know what they're experiencing, don't talk about it. Or make an appointment with them, talk to them about it, do some research on it, find out what's going on. Don't just jump just because they're closing the school. They're not closing just to be closing. There's a reason for closing it. Look at the economy the way it is going. Look at our school system itself the way it is going. So you got to kind of get in there and kind of study it and find out exactly what's going on.
Well,
When you say that, Mr. Williams?
I seen on the news that a lot of other major cities are closing a lot more than that. Like Kansas City is closing in the upwards of like 26 schools.
Right.
So, just a couple schools to help save our economy and to help save jobs for these kids and to have someone teach them and learn things is a very valuable price to pay to lose those two schools than to lose, I don't know how many schools we have in the community, 8, 9 high schools or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Something like that number.
I think that it was something that had to be done.
So I agree with you. Tim, you have anything?
Yeah, I got a short comment on it.
Okay.
Like my colleague said, but I kind of have a different outlook on it. We're right now we're the job market's low. Right now the economy, far as how the economy is being structured, that's in terrible condition, and now they're closing schools. I just think that before we start taking too drastic of measures, because once you start losing your education, I mean, you're already in poverty. I mean, what's next? I mean, what are you going to do? So I just think that we need to just, give our Congress, our councilmen, we need to give our people that's in the office, we need to give them a call and just, and brainstorm it and see what else that we can do besides just keep closing schools. I mean, closing schools, losing education, I don't never think that's a good idea. I think we should do something different with that, but
Right.
it is what it is.
At some point, I understand where you're coming from. It's just like, their hands are tied in the situation, and something has to be done financially to relieve some things. And they were talking about earlier this year cutting all the vice principals' jobs, taking their job title away from all of them. And so, I mean, I don't know exactly how much money they had to remove off the books, but I'm sure this alleviates
I think
a portion of it.
I think Fort Wayne community was like $2 million or something like that. They needed to alleviate off the books. But if it takes losing an assistant principal, if it takes losing, maybe somebody that's on a board or whatever, I just think that we need to do whatever's possible to make sure our kids get the correct education. Don't overcrowd the classes. Somebody in the classroom might be just, failing behind and just can't get it, and the classroom's overcrowded. Then I mean, it's just I think it's gonna hurt our children's education. I really do. I don't feel good about that one.
Well, it's one of those things we got to roll with because, like you said, if they take that away, what's going to happen? We're going to get more violence, more crime, and then we're going to have more victim assistance.
There you go.
Being assisting people.
Right.
And we're going to bring them on here pretty soon. We got two beautiful young ladies that decided to come in and tell us a little bit about it. One name is Tracy Yost. I think I pronounced it right. And we got Grace Bailey coming in. But before we get to that, we're going to take you to a. It's kind of a devastating scene that happened in Seattle, Washington, and this scene was caught on tape, and they're only going by their first names, and because of the situation that they're going through down there. Her name is Aisha, and her mother's going to be on there with her, showing her. talking with her about what happened, and it was all it was caught on video, and their attorney James Bible. That's a nice last name, Bible.
Yes, sir.
He's their attorney. They're going to be talking about it. So we're going to go to this clip, and then when we come back, we're going to bring the beautiful ladies on, and we'll talk about victims' assistance. So let's roll that tape.
By a group of teenagers, while 3 security guards stood by and watched. In a moment, we'll hear from the victim and her mother for the first time in a GMA exclusive. But first, here's Neil Karlinsky with more on the fallout.
Security guards could hardly have been closer as they watched 15-year-old Aisha being brutally beaten, an incident that's grown into a national outrage.
It's 2 little girls. Any adult should hop in and say, hey, stop.
And upset no one more than the victim's mother.
The people that's put here to protect turn their backs, and they see our kids no more than savages.
The victim now says she asked police for help earlier after being harassed while shopping, but she says officers didn't listen. The attackers followed her to the bus terminal where once again those in uniform, this time private security guards, didn't come to her rescue. Olympic Security, the company involved, says its officers are unarmed and are instructed not to intervene, but to call for police.
They are to observe and report, and that means be a good witness and call 911. And that's exactly what they did.
The company now acknowledges in a statement that in cases like this one, these, quote, passive approaches are not effective. Armed sheriff's deputies have now been added to the city's bus tunnel stations as a precaution, and police are conducting an internal review. Too late for Aisha, who wonders if anyone would even care if officers weren't shamed by their own inaction caught on tape. For Good Morning America, Neil Karlinsky, ABC News, Seattle.
And we are joined now by the victim of that attack as well as her mother for an exclusive interview. They have asked us not to use their last names, so we'll introduce them to you as Aisha and Letta and their attorney James Bible. Welcome to all of you. And Aisha, let me begin with you. You're smiling. How do you feel 2 weeks after this attack?
Now that I think about it, I'm still emotional about it, but I feel betrayed that I seeked out for help and wasn't helped by police officers or the security guards.
What did you ask the police to do?
I said, can you please escort me to the tunnel? I need to get home, but there's this group of people and they're following me and they're threatening to assault me. And they were just like, you need to find your way home. You guys been down here for a long time and we're tired of all this trouble down here. You just need to go home.
And they wouldn't take you to the bus station?
And they wouldn't. They told me they couldn't. They have a lot of problems downtown and they can't just help out one person.
Aisha, all of us were horrified when we saw the taping of that beating. What do you remember about it?
When I was on the ground and the kicking, I wasn't really feeling all that. I totally blanked out. And so I didn't know how horrifying it looked. And it had me sick to the stomach when I looked at it and to see that was me on the ground and that was happening to me.
I can't imagine what it must have been like for you.
When I seen the video, it was a piercing yell out like a cry to where the sheriff had to close the door and we had to stop the tape and take it in segments because I don't know if I was more horrified about the kicking or about the guards standing there. And one of the things that really stand out that's been preventing me from sleeping is the fact that she still was passed out. And once the assailants left, everybody just resumed like it was just normal, walking over, going to their prospective places.
So when you came to, what did the guards say?
Well, before I even seen them in the tunnel or before they even approached me, as soon as I got to the tunnel, I warned the guards about the situation. Nobody replied to me. Nobody looked at me in the eye. Nobody said anything. I've still yet to hear any of their voices. Before the situation and after the situation, they told me I had to clear the area because there were other riders that need to get on the buses.
The head of the security guard agency says they called 911, but you're not sure that happened.
Before it happened, there was 3 security guards, and I told them what happened. Nobody replied to me. Nobody looked me in the eye. Nobody even acknowledged that I was in their presence.
And afterward, they just told you to leave? No offer of help?
No offer of help. There was one man, he asked me for my name, but I was talking to a lady that helped me up, and that's about it. But he didn't offer to take me to an office for safety, to call my mom or anything.
Wow. Mr. Bible, we know that the Seattle Police Department has begun an internal review. Are you contemplating any kind of further action either against the police department or the security agency?
We certainly are. We are in a place in Seattle where segments of our population feel as though they are over-policed and underserved, essentially meaning that there are occasions when young people like Aisha are stopped, frisked, and then told to leave a particular area, but when they actually reach out for help like we hope that they would, to police departments and law enforcement, they often do not receive the help that they deserve. So certainly we would be looking into litigation in reference to the city. We're deeply concerned, of course, that a young lady such as Aisha that sought out help from so many people didn't receive any help at all. And at the very least, the officers or really the security guards at that true moment of need could have at least used their voices. They could have said, stop, or no,
So they
or
didn't
we're
even
calling
say
the
a
police.
word.
Aisha had never heard their voices, and we're talking about a young lady that has a heart condition. I think a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, she had a procedure linked to that. So when you see her on the ground covering her chest, as opposed to her face when she's being kicked in the head, you learn a little bit when you talk to her about what her experience is and what her thoughts may have been at that time.
Because you know, a friend of one of the attackers has said that Aisha earlier in the day had sprayed them with pepper spray for no reason. Is that true?
Essentially, we're in a place where what we would say is it would not be surprising if a 15-year-old girl that had been harassed for months, a significant period of time by this population who also has a heart condition, would find some sort of way to protect herself. I'd also suggest that if Aisha had pepper spray in that tunnel, she probably would have used it, especially given that she was seeking to navigate her way around the security guards to a place.
So she may have had it before, but not in the tunnel.
It's possible.
And, Letta, as you know, there's an awful lot of outrage across the country about this situation. How would justice be served here?
That's a tough question. There's clearly something needs to be done, starting with policy, and how inhumane the adults that witnessed it felt that they needed to deal with it while they was watching something so inhumane being done. I think I'm going to leave that up to the courts to decide, because the emotional part of me would play a part of that answer, and I don't know if it would be appropriate.
Well, as a mom, what do you want to see happen?
As a mom, I want to see justice served.
And Aisha, do you think you'll be able to put this behind you?
I can't really answer that because it's just another traumatic experience on top of another traumatic experience that I have to deal with.
Okay, well, thank you all for sharing your story today.
I know that was an alarming video that you've seen, but that's something of reality too. That is something that happened in Seattle, Washington. Once again, that was Aisha was her name, and it was just a shame that the way that she was treated, and other people were standing around and seeing all this going on, as well as adults and other minors her age. But the one thing about that, that's what's wrong with society today. We don't want to sometimes get involved in things, but if you have a child like her that was laying on the ground, and as much as she was kicked in her head, the way they were kicking her in her face, the way they were, I'm surprised there wasn't an eye dislocated, a nose broken, or I'm sure she had a concussion, but your head is a vital area of your body, because that's all your functions. That's where everything's taken off and telling you what to do, where to do, and how to do. So that's one of those things that you got to be really concerned or kind of halfway out of your mind if you're not going to try